First there was Julius Erving, aka Dr. J, the high flyer whose afro shimmered like Bruce Leroy from The Last Dragon. He was the ultimate showman, Vince Carter before Vince Carter. Then came Magic and Bird, a rivalry that started in college and became the NBA's ultimate lifeline. Long story short, the league was struggling in the 70s. Then Magic and Bird got drafted and suddenly the NBA was must-see TV. The league rode their wave all the way to 1984 when a man named Michael Jordan came on the scene. Everyone knew he was a star, but no one could have predicted just how big he'd become. If Dr. J was a legend, MJ was a phenomenon. He didn't just elevate the game. He launched the NBA into a stratosphere unlike anything ever seen or duplicated. Near the tail end of Jordan's reign, a 17-year-old kid landed in Los Angeles, Kobe Bryant, the NBA's next gold mine. The flair was obvious, the skill undeniable, and the moments unforgettable. The fact that he played like Mike, that was just the cherry on top. But if Michael Jordan was a rocket, then LeBron James was a meteor. The chosen one before he even stepped foot in the league. LeBron became arguably the most polarizing star in sports. For 20 plus years, he hasn't just played in the NBA, he's carried it.
James up and under, throws it off the backboard. Oh, what a perfect pass. The TNT doubleheader. James accelerates and put it down.
And now, at 40 years old, he's still one of the most dominant players in the league, still the most talked about figure in the sport, which is a huge issue. What in the world is the NBA going to do when LeBron James no longer exists? If it's not obvious by now, the guys we just talked about, they weren't just great, they were the faces of the NBA. These are the players that the NBA attaches itself to in order to sell tickets, merchandise, and the game itself. More than any other sport, the foundation of the NBA is built on solo individuals and their ability to attract viewers. Fans obviously have teams that they follow, but a big portion of NBA chatter is tied to the face of the NBA. But what qualifies you to be the face of the league? One of the most obvious traits of a future face is sheer dominance. Michael Jordan, for example, the moment he stepped on the NBA court, he was a huge problem. Averaging nearly 30 points per game as a rookie, he didn't just show flashes. He was a fully formed superstar from the jump. His athleticism, skill, and killer mentality were immediately on display, making it clear that the Bulls had landed a generational talent. When a player enters the league and dominates from day one, their face of the league trajectory is much easier to predict. With Jordan, the NBA knew they had something special almost instantly. He became the league's most exciting player in the late 80s, but once Magic Johnson and Larry Bird began to fade, he officially took over. His dominance was too obvious to ignore. Now, contrast that with Kobe Bryant. By the time he retired, he cemented himself as the second greatest shooting guard of all time, and one of the most decorated players in NBA history. Coming straight out of high school, he had all the tools: athleticism, confidence, and an advanced skill set. But superstardom was far from a guarantee. The 1997 Slam Dunk Contest was his first real introduction to the world, showcasing his electrifying talent and hinting at what was to come. However, his early years were far from smooth. He played limited minutes as a rookie and started just 7 games in his first 2 seasons. Unlike Jordan, whose greatness was undeniable from day one, Kobe had to fight for his opportunity. Even in the 97 playoffs, when he shot the infamous air balls against the Utah Jazz, it was a reminder that he was still raw. This slow start affected how he was perceived. While Jordan was immediately placed on a path to becoming the face of the league, Kobe had to prove himself over time. Even when Kobe became an all-star by year 3 and won his first championship by year 4, he was still in Shaq's shadow. The face of the league just isn't about talent. It's about timing, narrative, and perception. This contrast highlights why predicting the league's next face isn't an exact science. Some players are instant stars, and it's easy to imagine them carrying the league for the next decade. Others take longer to develop, and by the time they reach their prime, the NBA has already shifted. This brings us back to LeBron James. Let's be real, the league has been riding LeBron's wave from the moment he was drafted. You'd be hard-pressed to find another athlete in any sport who came in with the kind of hype he had. At 17, he was already on the cover of Sports Illustrated with the caption that said it all: the chosen one. And if that wasn't enough, the article straight up claimed that the high school junior LeBron James would be a lottery pick right then and there. That's a bold statement. You could take it one of 2 ways. Either it was pure disrespect to the actual NBA prospects in 2002, or LeBron was just that different. With all due respect to that draft class, I'm rolling with the second option. And clearly so was the then analyst and current Utah Jazz GM, Danny Ainge, who didn't even try to hide his thoughts. If I were a general manager, there are only 4 or 5 NBA players that I wouldn't trade to get him right now. I love Jason Williams at Duke, and I heard of the Chinese guy, but if LeBron came out this year, I wouldn't even have to think about it. I'd take him number 1. Think about that. A high school kid was getting the nod over the reigning National College Player of the Year and a literal 7'6" unicorn in Yao Ming. That's not just hype. That's the kind of anticipation the NBA lives for. The league needs a storyline to keep fans locked in, and LeBron had one straight out of a movie script. And here's the kicker. The hype wasn't just media talk, it was real. LeBron's high school games got so crazy that St. Vincent St. Mary had to move home games to the University of Akron's 5,100-seat arena just to fit the crowd. The tickets were going for $100 a pop for a high school game. That's next level attention. The NBA wasn't just getting a young star, they were getting a phenomenon. The next face of the league was already loaded. To understand how insane it is for a player to become the face of the NBA, you have to look at the numbers. First, just getting to the NBA is a statistical long shot. Out of over 540,000 high school basketball players in the US, only 3.5% even make it to the college level. From there, just 1.1% of draft-eligible NCAA players actually get drafted into the NBA. If you're counting, that's about 0.02% of all high school players making it to the league. But even getting drafted is far from a ticket to stardom. Historically, about 65% of #1 picks turn into all-stars. That's like 7 out of 10. Not bad if you're a GM looking to hit big. If you go further down the draft, the odds drop off a cliff. Just 24.7% of #10 picks and 12.5% of #13 picks ever make an all-star game. All NBA? Even harder. The league only selects 15 players per season for all NBA honors, meaning even great players can go their entire careers without making it. Since 2000, only 30% of lottery picks have made at least one All-NBA team in their career. That means 7 out of every 10 lottery picks never reached that elite tier. This is the improbability that LeBron was up against. Another key ingredient in becoming the face of the league is narrative. It's not just about talent, it's about the story. And LeBron's story had layers. He wasn't just a prodigy, he was a hometown prodigy. The Cleveland Cavaliers, a franchise that had been a dumpster fire for years, just so happened to land the #1 pick in the 2003 draft, the same year that a once-in-a-generation talent from Akron, Ohio was entering the draft. Whether it was pure luck or the league nudging fate in the right direction, the storyline was undeniable. The prodigy staying home to resurrect his struggling local team. Could the hometown kid become a hero and bring relevance to a team that had been irrelevant for the past 5 seasons? These are the kind of unknowns that get casual fans invested in the sport. With all the pressure on him, LeBron's debut was one of the most anticipated in NBA history.
No one can live up to this type of hype that's been placed on this young man.
He wasn't alone in his assessment. But here's the thing about future faces of the league. They don't just handle adversity, they thrive in it. And from the moment LeBron James stepped onto an NBA court, he looked ready. His first NBA game, it was clear LeBron was different. It was like a mini movie to the future. He showed the whole arsenal, elite vision, tough shot making, and those bunnies. By the end of the game, LeBron made people believers. That was the face of the future faith. The NBA found this gem in the making. In a league with future all-timers like Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett, everyone was putting their money on LeBron. And the first signs of that payoff happened on May 31st, 2007. The Detroit Pistons are one of the strangest franchises in NBA history. They have been terrible for long stretches, downright unwatchable at times. But when they're in the mix, they're changing the NBA. This isn't a franchise that just exists in the background. They've been at the center of some of the league's biggest moments, whether they were standing in the way of a superstar or flat out killing dynasties. Look at their track record. In the 80s, they weren't just winning, they were stopping other legends from doing the same. The bad boy Pistons weren't built like the flashy Lakers or methodical Celtics. They were brutal, they were physical, unapologetic, and straight up nasty. And it worked. They didn't just compete with Bird and Magic, they took them out. They made the finals in 1988, barely losing to Magic's Lakers in a tough 7-game series. They came back in 1989 and swept the Lakers, snatching the title away. In 1990, they defended their crown and went back-to-back, this time taking out Clyde Drexler's Blazers. While the rest of the league was trying to score pretty points, Detroit was knocking people to the floor. And nobody felt it worse than Michael Jordan. The Pistons bullied Jordan and the Bulls for 3 straight years, sending them home in 88, 89, and 90. They even created the infamous Jordan rules, a defensive strategy that basically boiled down to, if he goes to the rim, make him regret it. They were Jordan's last roadblock. He had to beat Detroit before he could take over the NBA. In 2004, the Pistons took down a super team before that was even a thing. The Lakers were supposed to run through the NBA that year. They already had Shaq and Kobe, but in the offseason, they added 2 more Hall of Famers, Gary Payton and Karl Malone, to form what looked like an unstoppable force. On paper, the Lakers had everything. The Pistons, they had no superstar. Instead, they had a squad full of defensive dogs and high IQ players. Chauncey Billups, their fearless leader and Finals MVP. Ben Wallace, an undersized center who made life annoying for Shaq. Rasheed Wallace, an ultra-skilled bigman with a chip on his shoulder. Rip Hamilton, a non-stop motion shooter who gave the Lakers fits. And Tayshaun Prince, a long, lanky defender who made Kobe work for everything. That 04 Pistons team ended the Lakers dynasty, taking them down in just 5 games. With a similar core in 2007, they looked like the ideal team to throw a wrench in the rise of a young phenom. Fortunately for the NBA, LeBron James chose Game 5 to solidify his face card. From a roster comparison standpoint, the Cavs were heavy underdogs. 0 championship experience, led by a player who's only been in the league for 4 years at this point. Meanwhile, the Pistons' score had been the 6th straight conference finals at that point. But remember what we said about adversity. This was it, and LeBron James rose to the occasion. Tough buckets, playmaking. LeBron was checking every box. Even young Mike Malone knew we were witnessing something special. LeBron put the Cavs on his back and completely took over the game. The takeover really started with a little over 30 seconds left in the game. Cavs down 1 with LeBron at the top of the key. It's time to dance. Detroit took the lead again, so LeBron had to put the cape on again. Cavs and Pistons go to overtime and things got spooky. Detroit threw everything they had at the King. Hard fouls, extra elbows, anything to slow him down. But there was no stopping him. LeBron James was Thanos and the Pistons were the Avengers. Except this time, the good guys weren't winning. Every time Detroit hit a big shot, LeBron was there with the answer. People love to talk about Steph Curry being the first guy to get doubled as soon as he crossed half court because of his video game shooting range. And don't get it twisted, Steph is one of a kind. He's the greatest shooter ever and in the GOAT point guard discussion. But LeBron was getting doubled at half court while Steph was still taking electives at Davidson. Man-to-man, double team, zone defense, it didn't matter. LeBron wasn't just winning the game, he was snatching the crown. His face of the league meter was rising and Detroit had no way to stop it. At this point, the Jordan comparisons were in full swing. And in this situation, they made perfect sense. Michael Jordan was already a household name after his rookie season when he became must-see TV. But he didn't officially become the face of the NBA until his legendary showdown against the Boston Celtics in the '86 playoffs. To this day, his 63-point explosion is one of the greatest performances in NBA history. It was so legendary that Larry Bird didn't even try to downplay it. He went religious just to describe MJ. That was God disguised as Michael Jordan. You know you're the face of the league when a top 10 all-time player gives you that kind of cosign. That was Jordan's stamp of approval to the players, to the fans, to the entire NBA. From that moment forward, MJ wasn't just in the conversation. He was the driver of the league, and everyone else had to take a back seat. And just like Jordan had his Boston moment, LeBron had his Detroit moment. His 48-point special in Game 5 against the Pistons, scoring the Cavs' final 25 points, was the night he officially took the throne. That game wasn't just a win, it was a statement. The NBA placed their bets on the 22-year-old, and they've been cashing in ever since. You'd think that after 22 seasons of playoff runs, back-to-backs, and relentless expectations, LeBron James still wouldn't be a dominant force. But here's the wild part. No player in NBA history has ever been this good for this long. To be fair, aside from his 38-point explosion in Game 3 of the 2025 playoffs, the most recent memory we have of LeBron James doesn't really highlight his dominance because he got bounced in the first round. That said, he was all-NBA caliber during the regular season. First piece of evidence, he cooked the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. No AD, no problem. LeBron has always loved playing at the Mecca, and he put on a show. Then came the 42-piece against Golden State. LeBron beat Steph at his own game, hitting deep threes with crazy range like it was nothing. Next stop, Portland, another 40-piece. Full disclaimer, 11 turnovers, but the man is 40 years old putting up 40s. And then Luka's first revenge game, LeBron dropped 16 points in the fourth quarter to close it out. The numbers don't lie. That level of production with that level of efficiency puts him in elite company. On one hand, this is great for the NBA. As long as LeBron is still elite, they can keep pushing him as the attraction. But on the other hand, what happens when he finally falls off? For years, the league has been searching for a replacement, the next face to carry the NBA when LeBron is no longer on top. At first, it looked like they were banking on a Zion Williamson era, but that flight never really took off. Injuries, inconsistent availability, and off-court concerns have slowed down what was supposed to be a superstar's rise. Jason Tatum, as polished as they come, but does he have the it factor? The NBA has pushed him as a potential face, but he really doesn't captivate the audience like LeBron or Steph Curry. Luka Doncic, a top 5 talent who took his previous team to the finals. Luka definitely has the flair and charisma on the court, but does it resonate the same off the court? Off the court appeal is a huge factor when it comes to the face of the league. Nobody embodied that more than Michael Jordan. On the court, his resume is untouchable. 6 championships, 5 MVPs, 10 scoring titles. He was the ultimate winner. But what truly separated Jordan from just being another all-time great was his impact beyond basketball. He wasn't just a player, he was a global icon. He made people who didn't even watch basketball care about the sport. His off-court appeal started with the Air Jordan brand, which revolutionized sneaker culture. Jordan didn't just sell shoes, he turned them into a movement. Air Jordans weren't just for hoopers. They became a fashion statement, a status symbol, a billion-dollar empire that still dominates decades later. The NBA has superstars before him, but none changed how people dressed, how they moved, and how they aspired to be. His brand wasn't just tied to his game, it became a lifestyle. Then there were the commercials. Be Like Mike wasn't just an ad, it was an anthem. Gatorade, McDonald's, Hanes, Jordan was everywhere. He wasn't just the face of the NBA, he was the face of America's biggest brands. His presence turned basketball into pop culture, making it cool in a way no player had before. Does a guy like Anthony Edwards have that off-court appeal? I think so. On the court, he might just be the closest thing to an heir to the throne. He's got the charisma, the killer instinct, the athleticism to be that guy. The problem, he doesn't even want to be the face. He's quoted saying, "That's what they have Wemby for," which brings us to the final candidate, Victor Wembanyama, arguably the most gifted prospect we've ever seen. A 7'4" freak of nature who moves like a guard and blocks shots like Prime Mutombo. If he stays healthy, he could be the defining player of the next decade, but that's the problem, health. The Spurs are rightfully going to be extremely cautious with Wemby, prioritizing his long-term health over everything, but that leaves the NBA with a major question: what now? This is exactly why replacing LeBron isn't simple. Everything has to align: talent, marketability, team success, health, and narrative. And somehow, LeBron James has carried the league for 20 years. Just when it seemed like Father Time was catching up, playing alongside his son has given him a new burst of energy. The NBA still desperately needs its next phase, but LeBron is proving that, for now, he's still more than capable of carrying the torch, which is a huge issue. We appreciate you guys for watching the video. If you like this type of content, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment. Later.